Hi everyone, been a while. I don't know if I got sound. Does that work? Hello, testing. Can you hear me? It's been so long since I've done a live. Had free time to do a live. So I'm going to share some videos quickly and I'll drop a link in if anyone wants to pop in and say hello. I've forgotten how to share screen. Uh, totally forgotten how to share. It's been so long since I've been on here. Hey everyone, welcome. Hope you're having a fantastic day out there. Sound of Freedom's this movie. Have you seen it? Have you heard about it? It seems to have a bit of confliction with what's going on. Um, Check this one out with me. There's something terribly wrong with the media's reaction to The Sound of Freedom. Sound of Freedom is based on a true story of an ex-agent who saved hundreds of children from. Meanwhile, Bloomberg, the Washington Post hired a pro advocate to attack the movie and associate it with 20th of July 2023. The Sound of Freedom movie is based on a true story of Tim Ballard, a government agent who quits his job in order to rescue children from in Colombia. Directed by, can't say that, sorry. Sound of Freedom is not your typical Hollywood movie. It was released in Utah-based Angel Studio, a company specializing in faith-based productions. The movie was actually completed over 5 years ago in 2018 and was slated to be distributed with 20th Century Fox. However, when the studio was bought by the Walt Disney Company, The Sound of Freedom was shelved indefinitely. Well, we know what Disney is about, don't we? Apparently, Disney was much more preoccupied with making movies that children with propaganda rather than releasing a movie exposing. Luckily for the filmmakers, they were able to buy the distribution rights back from Disney through equity funding, and they've managed to get the film released on July 4th, 2023. Almost immediately, the movie was met with a bizarre barrage of bad reviews where buzzwords appear in nearly every article, as if all of these journalists, propagandists, received the same memo. The movie itself does not mention or anything even remotely related to it, merely puts the story of Tim Ballard and Operation Underground Railway, the organization he created to fight child. However, mass media pundits made it a point to associate and make this word association. They also decided that the movie was controversial. Why was that? Well, for starters, the media really does not like some people associated with the movie, starting with its star, Jim Chavez. Controversial endorsements. Jim Savales with Mel Gibson during the filming of Passion for Christ. in 2004. Prior to The Sound of Freedom, Jim Chazelle was mostly known for playing the role of Jesus Christ in Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ. The least one can say is this role took a toll on Chazelle. During filming, he was actually whipped, got his shoulder dislocated, suffered pneumonia and hypothermia. Oh, he was also hit by lightning. Indeed, while filming the Sermon on the Mount, Chazelle was struck by lightning, which led to two heart surgeries, including open heart surgery. The Sound of Freedom, Chevelle's character also has Christ-like qualities, especially when tearfully looks at the camera and says, God's children are not for sale. While the movie itself stays away from the conspiracy theories, the elite wants it suppressed by any means necessary. Jim Chazelle just goes in all in at every chance he gets. In the following interview, Chazelle directly refers to the satanic elite and the harvesting of. Another major endorser of The Sound of Freedom is Mel Gibson. Well, that's rather appropriate because one of the most memorable lines he ever uttered was, They can take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom. Braveheart. When he screamed those words as Sir William Wallace in the 1995 movie Braveheart, Mel Gibson was one of the biggest movie stars in the world. However, even at the peak of success, Gibson found a way to anger people with these massive truth bombs. In July 1995 interview with Playboy, Gibson said President Bill Clinton was a low-level opportunist and someone who was telling him what to do. He also stated that Oxford University Rhodes Scholarship was established for young men and women who want to strive for and was a campaign for. During the 1998 interview, Gibson alluded to a dark satanic side of Hollywood. A few years later, after some of his drunken tirades, notably about were leaked in the press, Gibson was shunned and blacklisted from Hollywood. Well, he stayed away from Hollywood production for years. Gibson resurfaced to openly endorse The Sound of Freedom, which is not a Hollywood movie. So what is all the fuss about? Here's an actual look at the movie. Sound of Freedom. While The Sound of Freedom is said to be faith-based, there is no religious preaching or political messaging throughout the movie. It simply wants to make one important point. Child is bad, and somehow the mass media deemed this movie to be controversial. To drive the point across, the movie doesn't shy away from depicting scenes that are barely watchable. For instance, in one gut-wrenching scene, an old drunken tourist stumbles into a room where a terrified little girl is forced to wait on him. And no, nobody flies in to save the day. The drunken shuts the blinds as the viewers realize that nothing will stop the unspeakable things that will happen in the cursed room. These scenes shamelessly tug at the heartstrings and that are nearly impossible to watch. However, they do happen in real life, every day, thousands of times a day. Not only that, child is a booming industry that keeps raking in record amounts of profits. As he stated in the movies, drugs can only be sold a single time. However, children can be sold several times a night. By forcing viewers to face these harsh realities, the movie sets itself apart from nearly all Hollywood productions that would never tackle such topics. The main reason Hollywood is rampant with the worst one can imagine. Some critics complained that the movie was too straightforward, that they did not like the fact that there was no surprise twist, that a hero remained an unwavering, incorruptible hero that just wants to see the go down. Well, I guess they could have been pleased if a hero revealed himself to be a all along or something like that. But these professional critics should have realized that they were not watching a Marvel movie where random, unpredictable events just happen to fill airtime. Sound of Freedom is about telling a true story and exposing a horrific reality. For instance, the movie begins with real and chilling footage of children being snatched from the streets, taken away by abductors working for these networks. These children end up in the child that are depicted in the movie. They also end up in elite that indulged in the most horrific practices known to man. For this reason, corrupt elite-owned media outlets went on a bizarre propaganda campaign to disparage Sound of Freedom. Also, you'll see soon, they were willing to go extremely low. The media's unhinged response. The Sound of Freedom, a man heroically inflates child and yet saves the children from being. The media's response, this movie is bad. What in God's name is happening here? Here's the thing, The Sound of Freedom are the bad guys. They are not misunderstood, oppressed victims who need to be coddled. They are sadistic monsters who prey on the divine nature of innocent children, and they need to be stopped. This goes against the narrative that has been prevalent in mass media in the past years. The goal to pave the way to society where MAPs, minor attracted persons, are treated like other sexual minorities. For this reason, nearly every elite-owned media outlet in the world has published insane articles that attack the sound of freedom. Here's a headline from a reputed Washington Post. The second article or paragraph says many critics have linked the Sound of Freedom to conspiracy cult. They've also been startled by its mainstream successes, but the truth is that the conspiratorial right and the Hollywood default aren't that different, which is why perhaps our polity has such a difficult rejecting. And as you can see, the article throws every single buzzword and the readers such as pro conspiratorial right, even fat. Yeah, he used the word to critic a movie about child. One can wonder, why does this reviewer hate the movie so much? If the movie was about cocaine trafficking in Colombia, would he be offended? Well, the answer is completely sickening. The author of the Washington Post article is Noah, a communications director for Protesia uh, Advocate Group. So, according to their website, it supports the Minor Attracted Person Club, a notorious group that tries to normalize. Earlier this year, Rux reported that the general manager of Prostasia, sorry, I don't, yeah. Prescott Bryan, an active on board, dedicated to, who dubbed themselves, I just can't say these words. If I say these words, it's just going to get struck. Despite claiming to be motivated by a desire to eradicate or abuse, the organizational efforts have dedicated themselves to crusades against child. The letter writing campaigns start representatives demanding childlike sex dolls to be kept legal and funding research into fantasy outlets. For Redux founder Anna Statz explains, Protesia is condemned as anti-sentiment as harmful as rhetoric and called for mass censorship across social media. Evie Sound of Freedom, critic for Bloomberg, is a sympathizer. In short, he is a, in case he's still not convinced, here's a tweet he posted in 2017. His article about the Sound of Freedom wasn't a movie review, it was a hit piece coming directly from the advocacy group. Major news outlets such as Washington Post openly talk about the side of the child. Sadly, the Washington Post was not the exception. Nearly all the single elite-owned media outlet followed suit. The narrative, Sound of Freedom equals the headline from The Guardian uses the same buzzwords as the Washington Post article, which was written by they're all funded by the same system. Of course, Canada's government-funded CBC network had to participate in the insanity after years of surveilling in schools and all the forms of child. The CBC attacked the Sound of Freedom using the same buzzwords. In a recent interview with CBC Radio, pop culture columnist, propagandist Ryhead said, "We can't say that the movie itself is made by, but certainly the political goals make it something that would rally behind. Just like racists that rallied behind without him having to say a word overtly racist. You would have only heard about this movie if you were a regular among church groups, or regularly watch Fox News, or if you followed the right-wing personalities, or if you're a part of the so-called freedom movements. But make no mistake, the movie's success has a lot to do with it being dog whistle for xenophobic pro-life types. Yes, this columnist said that the movie about child in Colombia is a dog whistle for xenophobic pro and pro-life types. In other words, this person is paid by the Canadian taxpayers to spew pro. I could post many more examples of such headlines from around the world, and they are all to improve important points. The outlets take their normal talking point from the same globalist elite source. They're on a mission to normalize and they're willing to attack anything that goes against the agenda. Look at the work Ruth Bader Ginsburg did. She horrible. In conclusion, The Sound of Freedom is the best movie I've ever watched. Not really, objectively. It's a well-made movie that touches an important topic. It's quite refreshing to watch. Any reasonable reviewer could have said the same and left it at that, but that's not what happened at all. Instead of objectively reviewing the movie, reviewers screeched like demons when faced with the crucifix. Sound of Freedom clearly touched a nerve, and by doing so, it managed to reveal how far the elite and its media system are willing to go to defend. Through unhinged and desperate reviews, which are outright attempts at propaganda, which completely scary buzzwords, mass media outlets from around the world attempt to scare people from watching the movie for fear of being called pro. Bloomberg and Washington Post went as far as hiring to attack the movie. As a society, we truly need to reflect on the implications of such a movie by major media outlets. As usual, these propagandists use their favorite tactic, the far rightization of the topic to scare people away. However, this issue is not about left versus right, it is about good versus evil. The most important line in the movie is God's children are not for sale. If you are somehow offended by that line, then you can go to hell. Literally. Wow. It's just sad that no one's defending the children. No one's, anytime someone tries to stand up and defend the children, they get attacked. And it's like that stuff that was done in the 70s with the Asch conformity experiment, many other experiments, how, they could trick people into doing things by just getting one or two people to do it. And people just follow the crowd. They don't want to be outcasted and made out that there's something that they're not. So anyway, so that's that one I was going to share, and I'm going to share one more short one, and then I've got the link there, and if anyone wants to jump on and ask about anything. The world is headed. It is truly sinister sights near Sultan, Kazakhstan. Astana, the first capital being built in the 21st century, and it nearly perfectly represents where the world is headed. It is truly one man's vision, no sultan of the president of Kazakhstan, yes, Borat's country, I know, backed by billions of petrodollars. The city is being built from scratch in a remote deserted area of the Asian steppes. The result is astonishing, a futuristic occult capital embracing the New World Order while celebrating the most ancient religion known to man, sun worship. The city is still a huge construction site, but buildings that are already completed, already set up, is a cult vision. The Pyramid of Peace. Conceived by Britain's most prolific architect, Lord Norman Forrester, this giant pyramid is an odd presence in the middle of the Asian steppes. The building is dedicated to the reunification of violence and to bring together the world's religions. Norman Forrester has said that the building has no recognizable religious symbols to permit the harmonious reunification of confessions. In reality, the pyramid is a temple for the occultist only true religion, sun worship, paganism. The journey inside the building is a truly symbolic one. It represents each human's path to illumination. And let's take the tour. The pyramidal shape. The initiates accept the pyramid form as the ideal symbol of both the secret doctrine and those institutions established for its dissemination. Manly P. Hall, A Secret Teaching of All Ages. Novus Ordo Seclorum equals New Order for the Ages. As Manly P. Hall stated, the pyramid is the ultimate symbol representing the mysteries of the ancient civilizations. Sublime in their simplicity, divine in their proportions, they embody both the divine knowledge of being the illuminated and bewilderment to the masses. Today, the elite, initiated to the occult, and the heirs of the ancient wisdom, and use the pyramid as a symbol of power in the modern world. The illuminated, floating, missing capstone represents the divine principle present in the universe as well as each human being. Another symbolic meaning attributed to the missing capstone is the unfinished nature of the New World Order. It is said that the capstone of the Great Pyramid will be reinstated when this old project will become reality. Here are other pyramids appearing across the world, representing the elite's power over the masses. Memphis Arena, Luxor Hotel Las Vegas, Raffles Hotel Dubai. When entering the pyramid at great ground level, the interior is dark and carnivorous. The basement houses Astania Opera House, where the unsuspecting mass gets entertained. An eye above them. Despite the darkness, the huge image of the sun occupies almost all of the ceiling. The midsection, right on top of the Opera House, is the central base of the pyramid. It acts as a meeting room for conferences reuniting religious leaders of the world. Take a minute and soak up the symbolism here. You have religious leaders from all over the world sitting on a huge figure of the sun, discussing how to reconcile their differences for the coming new age. The symbolism is blatant. All these theologies are simply an outgrowth of the original project of worship the sun. This space is much more luminous than the Opera House, representing the progress towards illumination. The sun image in the middle of the round table is exactly on top of the sun of the Opera House. So while the general population is being entertained in the darkness of the material world, the illuminated, sitting right on top of them, are contemplating how to reach godliness. Contemplating godliness. If you read other articles on the site, you might be aware of the objective of the New World Order. One of them is to replace all religions by a form of neo-paganism. This is what these meetings are for. The city of Astana is truly a city of the New World Order. The apex. The apex, literally heavenly, is around, totally windowed and bathing in glorious sunlight. Images of white doves are embodied in the windows, representing peace, which will result in the unification of world governments and religions in the New World Order. The apex is the ultimate representation of achievement of illumination and on the individual on the worldly level. Look at the ceiling of the apex. The solar deity is the sun shining above upon the illuminated. The pyramid's division, the lower dark opera house, the middle conference room, and the godly apex, embody the Parthenon vision of the world. Pythagoras' teachings are thoroughly studied in today's occult societies. Pythagoras divided the universe into three parts, which he called the supreme world, the superior world, and the inferior world. The highest or the supreme world was a stable, interpretive, spiritual essence, pervading all things, and therefore the true plane of the supreme deity itself. The deity being in every sense of omnipresent, omniactive, omnipotent, and omniscient. Both the lower worlds existed within nature of the supreme sphere. The superior world was home to the immortals. It was also the dwelling place of the archetypes, or the seals. Their natures in no manner partook in the material of earthliness, but they, casting their shadows upon the deep, the inferior world, were co-organized only through their shadow. The third, or the inferior world, was the home of these creatures who partook in the material substance, or were engaged in labor whereupon material substance. Hence, the sphere was home of mankind and the lower kingdoms, those temporarily of earth but capable of rising above the sphere by reason and philosophy. In other words, the pyramid is much more than a tourist attraction. It is a representation of the philosophy and the initiates. As Dan Cruikshank's rather cryptically said in his documentary, it's a representation of power to come. Bay Turk. All designed by the distinguished British architect Sir Norman Forrester, the monument is meant to embody a folk tale about mythical tree of life and the magic bird of happiness. The bird, named Samrock, laid its egg in the crevice between the branches of a popular tree. The egg, the golden globe at the top of the monument, represents once again the sun, the supreme deity. This tree of life represents the channel through which spirits go to leave the material world and join the divine world. The concept is recurrent in most, if not all, Stoic societies. Inside the Golden Globe, the total recall thing. Visitors can go to the top of the tower, get a wonderful view of his city. There are also some strange items to look at. Inside the globe, we find this emag- emadic thing. It's a golden triangle with president's handprint in it. Why? I honestly don't know. All I can say is it looks like it's something from the movie Total Recall. Beta composition. It is a globe signed by representatives from 17 religious denominations, yet once again talking about uniting all religions into the New World Order and all of that. Masonic pillars. The two pillars and one in between further away. Is this a chance that this may be Masonic symbolism? It certainly is. Yes, the golden pillars represent the two pillars of masonry known Boaz and Jesshen. I won't go into the whole symbolism behind the pillars, but we can probably assume he is a free and accepted Mason. Presidential Palace, the palace between the two pillars. Placed in the commanding position of the city, the presidential palace sits at the end of the ceremonial route which starts at the Baytek Tower. The big fat dome sits on top of the palace, representing the female principal, in opposition to the phallic Baytek Tower, the male principal. This layout is present in almost all important cities, including Washington, D.C. and Paris, and also here in Australia with Canberra. I have a few videos I made about sort of the Masons and what they do. Just check out the Mason playlist. I'll leave a link at the end. Um, the Khan Chateau, can't say that, Chateau Entertainment Center, the world's biggest tent. The unfinished oddity is designed, once again, by Sir Norman Forrester. He basically designed the whole city. Underneath the tent in the large arena, then 10 football stadiums would be an urban scale internal park, shopping and an entertainment venue with squares, cobblestones, a boating river, shopping centre, mini golf, and indoor beach resort. It has been said that the structure is made to look like a tabernacle on par with Temple of Solomon. These portable places of worship, composed of tents, were used by the during biblical times. Initiates attribute these ancient settlements and Stoic meetings. Coming soon, Astana. Astana is still heavily under construction, but there's some truly amazing projects in the works. Here are some. The Central Markets, designed by our good friend Norman Forrester. This Crazy Towers, not the official name. All Seeing Eye Stadium. In conclusion, as members of the world elite are fulfilling the conditions that are required to unite the world into a single government, they are scattering over the world symbols of their power. The fact that the general population has no idea what these structures represent is exactly the reason why their plans go forward unquestioned and unnoticed. But these plans have been here for ages now. Manly P. Hall wrote in 1918, "When the mob governs, man is ruled by ignorance. When the church governs, he is ruled by superstition. And when the state governs, he is ruled by fear. Before man can live together in harmony and understanding, ignorance must be transmuted into wisdom, superstition into eliminated faith, and fear into love. Mobs equal to democracy, church is equal to religion, state is equal to countries. In other words, before men can live in harmony, we need to establish democracy because the mass is too dumb, religions because they're superstitious, and states because we need a one world government." He continues, "The perfect government of the earth must be patterned eventually after the divine government by which the universe is ordered. And in that day, when the perfect order is re established with peace universal and good triumphant, men will no longer seek for happiness, for they shall find it welling upon within themselves." Sound good, doesn't it? Only one catch. When this will happen, most of the world population will be dead. On that note, have a nice day. Thanks for watching. I hope you're all good. Like, share, subscribe, leave me a comment. Tell me what you think of this place. Check it out on Google Maps. It's just unreal. It's like the cities are paved with gold. It's just unreal what they've done. Like, you won't see homeless people sleeping on the streets like every other country that's been turned into a third world place. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. So, yeah, I've got a book here. I've got several books, but I got some books, so I'm going to read some stories after watching that Mind Unveiled video about the homunculus and things. It goes back to your folk tales and your fairy tales, and I question how much of these tales were sort of real. And, history was passed down verbally. So the link's there if anyone wants to pop in. If not, I'm just going to leave it at that. I just did a short one to say hello. But it's pretty cold here at the moment. I had to put black tape on my headphones because they were flashing and it was driving me crazy with the screen behind me. So that's why there's black tape on them. I got black headphones there. I just can't be bothered getting them out. So I got a few other good videos that I've made recently. The one with the rainbow with the chakras is basically they've inverted the rainbow pride flag and your chakras, and then it goes back to your promise of no floods, no more floods. But it also leads to the Noahide laws, the Noahide laws, and the one world religion. And basically, it'll be similar to Sharia law, and it's going to be like the old head on the chopping blocks again very soon. Thanks, Dwayne. I appreciate that. I understand. Yeah, it's pretty late. It's like 11, 10 past 11. So I just wanted to pop on and say hello. And yeah, I hope to get some things done. Going to go on a holiday with my son, and once I get back from holiday, I might be able to do a few more things, have a bit more free time. So, all right, guys, much love. Miss you all. Hope to see you all soon. Thanks for watching. Bye. Bye, Dwayne.